Good afternoon from sunny St. Catharines, Ontario. I'm Melanie Senzik from CSS and would like to welcome you to the very first IT for L debate between two educators who, from time to time, get mistaken for each other. We have 5 topics to debate over the next half hour. Each side will take a turn and I, today's moderator, will summarize key points. Any questions can be posted in the chat, and please note we are recording this session. And now for the introduction of our debaters. This afternoon's debate involves DSBN's D2L guy, Rob Dunlop, who is guaranteed to try to sell you a book over the next 30 minutes.
For sure.
Secondly, we have Kyle Kitchen on Team Red, our resident Google expert, who will steal the cardboard out from under you if you're not careful. Turning it over to Rob and Kyle.
All right, Kyle, you kick it off, buddy.
All right, so what's the best way to start the day? How would you start the day with your class? Go ahead, Rob. I'll give you first crack at this one.
Well, buddy, I'm going to stay loyal to D2L. That's why I made my name in the industry, and I'm going to stick with it. So I'm going to go with Video Note. And Kitch, if you could just give it a click, and I'll tell you why I think Video Note's the best, is when in the morning, when I'm ready to go, I want my kids to land in an environment and see my face first thing and hear my message. And I want to do it the quickest, easiest way. If there's anything we've learned from this teaching at home, remote learning thing, it's that we do not have a lot of time. This is a very time-consuming process. Teachers are stressed. There's so much on their plates. I'm looking for the quickest, easiest way. I believe Video Notes that because it's built directly into D2L. Couple clicks, you got your video uploaded and on your page. They even give a 30-minute time limit. Probably not enough for me once I get ripping and roaring, but 30 minutes is probably good for the average teacher. And not only that, we've experienced very limited glitches. So very limited people have said to me, I can't get my video up quick and easy inside of D2L. It's probably one of the easiest tools to get your message across to those students first thing in the morning. And remember, I always like to say, start with something positive, get them feeling good about themselves, and no better place to do that than Video Note, Kyle.
All right, so surprise, surprise, Dunlop starts with D2L. There's a word for that in our spot. It's called collusion. I believe impeachments happen because of that. So my constituents are not worried about D2L. We have other things that we need to post to, like Google Classroom. So let's be honest, we could just use the camera inside your laptop. Just type in camera, bring it up, and you record that video, and there you go. You can post that to your D2L, your Google Classroom, whatever you want. But let's not forget this year, we purchased Screencastify. Let's get a little deeper with just our morning message. I do agree with the other candidate that like making that piece of meeting your students is important first thing in the morning, but what about showing them a little bit of what's going to happen, a little agenda? I can Screencastify and do a little editing with that. I can share my screen as well. So it's very important though. Notice I'm going to share my face and what I'm showing because it's important to be present with your students when they first get in here in the morning.
Oh, you got me on that one, Kyle. That was a slick ending, buddy.
So what I hear our candidates saying is that it's important to build community, but it's also important to allow for flexibility as students are working from home. Recording an asynchronous lesson for students to engage first thing in the day allows the community to come together. It allows students to enter when they are prepared, and it certainly underscores the importance of well-being and staying connected.
And if I can add one more thing on that, so I missed this point, I think it's super important we talk about the why, is when we do that asynchronous piece, it makes our synchronous piece a little bit more valuable because we're not just going through instructions. We can save those, and the students who couldn't make the meeting still get those, but the other students, they can come in and we can really get to know them one-on-one in their small groups in those meetings. So great sum up there, Mel.
And I'll sum that up with, we know our guy likes more FaceTime when he can get it.
Number 2.
All right, you want this one? I'll say this one's building community. So I'm going to start with you, Kyle. But what's an effective way to build community with the tools that we have? This is important. What tools do we have that can build community? What's the best?
So remember what building community actually is. It is showing your face, wanting to see your students. it's kind of an odd time that we're living through right now while we're teaching online, and it's important to connect with your students. And not only an asynchronous video can't do that sometimes, but just seeing your face, just having some normalcy in your everyday. And Google Meet does that so well because we have those new host settings where I can actually turn things on and off and have a little bit more control, a little bit more classroom etiquette if I need. It looks the same no matter what I'm using, which is really nice. And let's not forget Jamboard built right into Google Meet. I don't have to go anywhere else. I just click out a Jamboard, share with my students, boom, whiteboard supremacy.
Man, I was waiting for you to say the G word the whole time, because when we talk collusion and you say that I'm tied to D2L, you're Mr. Google certified educator, my friend. And so it didn't take very long for you to throw Google into the mix. But I totally agree with everything you said. I think I'd say ditto to that. I think Teams does what Meet does, maybe a couple different things. And I think this comes down to what it is you're really looking for. And one of the things is what you're used to. If you're used to using Teams and you've used it several times, you feel good with it, then Teams might be the way you want to go. Couple features in Teams that I think really build that community, though, is that together mode. Like when you go the together mode, like you see in the picture, you can go into that mode and then share your screen and kids can see themselves sitting together. You can even change the backgrounds in together mode too. So it kind of makes it a more of a feeling of community and that you're actually back in that classroom together. Because at this point, that is where we want to be. We all know that we want to get back in the classroom with those kids. And so this gives us that feeling. Now, this one I don't know really falls under building community, but you can mute all. So Google Meet, you can't do this. So if, you know, and there's just times where you need everyone to stop talking and use some quiet space. And this gives you, I know Kyle's laughing because I never stop talking, and he tries to mute me all the time. But that mute all is so important at certain times, just so you can make sure that you can get back on top of the class. And the other thing is breakout rooms. We're still trying to figure out a lot about breakout rooms, but the idea of splitting off and having separate rooms with people in those rooms is something that we've been trying to figure out with Google Meets. Teams has built it into actually what they're doing. So if breakout rooms are something that you're interested in right now, I would say Teams would be your best option.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. We have invested in learning Google Meet and Microsoft Teams so we can recreate the feeling of being part of a classroom community, whether those are whole class synchronous lessons, small group synchronous lessons, or one-on-one individual lessons that you're doing using either Meet or Teams. We know it's very, very important for kids to see their teachers over the course of the day to stay connected. We also know they need to stay connected to and with each other. And both platforms, as the gentlemen have said, create that opportunity to do so. So we very much are appreciating your investment in your learning for both of these platforms, because we know it's a way to help kids stay connected to you.
Totally agree. It doesn't matter which one you're doing. Kick this one off, Kyle.
All right, so let's talk about creating norms. So what have you found to be the most useful expectation or norm for your class?
You know, if we talk about going back to this, especially with the remote school and learning some lessons in this, and even our PD back in March, it is setting up to use that chat appropriately. The norms we create around chats are absolute game savers. And from that perspective is when it's hard to run like a classroom when kids are talking, but if you're running a meeting and there's back chats in the background and kids are distracted, you know, I taught a class in the virtual school and, you know, I taught all these instructions, and at the end of it, I got about 15 questions that said, well, what are you doing? And then later on, I realized when I went into the chat, the norms hadn't been established effectively, and there was a whole back channel chat going, and that's why they didn't know what was going on. So this chat is so crucial that you get on top of this and you get your students to understand how to use it effectively. Just as this is brand new to us, this is brand new to students. And we know that students are intelligent with tech, but we also know that they're sneaky, and we also know that they're good at finding ways around things. So unless we explicitly tell them what it is we need to do and set that up, even put that down in a slideshow, post it inside of your D2L or your Google Classroom. But those chat norms should be everywhere. And I think it's really important when we're talking about the chat, we're talking about what features can you use? Are you allowed to use throwing in gifts, or is there certain parts of the lesson where that is appropriate? What are you allowed to do in that chat, and when it is appropriate is something that we want to think about. The other thing with the chat too is to think about when students are on a work period or they're doing something and they need your help. How are they connecting with you? How are they asking you questions? So when you set up your norms, also think about those work periods, and are they putting those questions in the chat so they can get that immediate help that they need? And obviously we need to talk, like any class and anything I've ever taught, it's all about behavior management and setting things up appropriately. And they need to be explained to them what's inappropriate to put in the chat, when it's inappropriate to put it in the chat. And if something is appropriate in the chat, it needs to be dealt with, and so that it doesn't keep happening. But I really believe, based on our experience with the remote school, that the chat is where the norms have to start, buddy.
Oh, my future VP Clanger here. I was trying to remind the Northern candidate to stick to the 2-minute chat rule if we do this again. So my norm and expectation is what happens when glitches happen, because we know in this new world, tech glitches happen. Can we say Cogeco? My Northern candidate uses Cogeco. But when those tech glitches happen, the most important norm that I have is have an asynchronous offline care package, that the students know when the teacher can't get in or they can't connect, that there is always something they can be doing. That's something that's very important to do. I might do at the beginning of every week to say, okay, here's the new package. You can save it to your computer. It doesn't have to be online. Train your students too. If all of a sudden this candidate disappeared, probably go a lot quicker, but teach everyone that they shouldn't be in there if the teacher's not. And by creating this norm at the beginning, it's just a safety thing, and parents will appreciate that as well. Don't forget that new feature to help desk. I can't say it enough. There's a chat line. We even tested it the other day and really took them through the ringer that they are there. There's many of them on there, and that online support, it's not an email, it's an actual chat little symbol where you can get help to a real person. Not like calling Cogeco, but you're going to get connected immediately. And the biggest thing is we're all going through this. So let's have a growth mindset, not only me as a teacher, but our students as well. Things are going to happen. They know they're going to happen. We can't throw up in arms, hey, technology, and just want to take our pitchforks and go vote the other way. We can get through this, have that growth mindset. We'll kill this together.
I believe Cogeco lost that round, by the way. I think Cogeco got beat up in that one.
Yes.
So as a recap, we know that if we as educators don't establish classroom norms, be it in person or virtually, it will be like herding cats. So we ask you, have you ensured your students know what to do when glitches happen? Also, we ask, have you taught them how to use the chat appropriately and what falls in the inappropriate use of chat? If we're not clear with kids at the outset, as one of the candidates said, kids will develop their own norms and then we will have to deal with those repercussions. Next item.
All right, what's this one? It's my turn, right, Kitch? So number 4, collecting evidence. How do you go about collecting evidence of learning? Specifically, what do you think the go-to tool is, Mr. Kitchen?
Oh, no, this was a hot debate, Mr. Dunlop, in our last one. I think we had to have a little session in Congress and we brought together our great minds and we kind of came up with this.
Yes, buddy. Flipgrid is where it's at. If you haven't used this tool, it is amazing, especially when we're thinking about capturing what's going on in the classroom. I think if I was to say one of the best tools, obviously since D2L, a little biased, would be Flipgrid. I think it's just the first time I went in and started playing with it, everything I said, well, I wonder if it does this, it did it. and it did it slick, and it did it, and it was so intuitive. So I think it's the best. And when I see Flipgrid, I think capture those conversations, capture those observations of what's going on with students, capture their learning. And it's so amazing because when we capture their learning, and then we can check it out whenever we want.
And see, I agree. And you even said it, capturing those conversations, these conversations that are happening, we're missing being online sometimes. Even when we're in the class, you're walking away from the group, you can't hear them. So having them record their process and their learning is an amazing way and things that you can do with Flipgrid.
Yeah, man. And you know what the thing is? It's fun and easy. We've done this with coaches. We've done this with teachers. We give them some Flipgrids. They've got all sorts of backgrounds and emojis and all sorts of things. It's very modern. It's very relevant. So it's one of the funnest and easiest ways and simplest ways I've seen to capture learning.
You know, the other nice thing is sometimes it's 5 o'clock somewhere, like soon when it's 4 o'clock. Rather than writing and marking everything, I can also give video or audio feedback quickly, directly, right from my phone or device, super fast.
Yeah, and you know what? I like it when I'm collecting observations and kids are submitting what I'm seeing and what they're learning. And I love the fact that I can actually go back at any point. Like say, for instance, we just finished doing report cards and I need a comment or I need to think of something on how that student is learning. Not only do I have the proof there, but I can go back and revisit it and pull it and use it for my comments. So it's a pretty slick way to go back and find it.
But what about collaboration? Did you know that you and other students can respond to other students' grids? That's going to create that conversation and keep that conversation going and going and going for their learning.
Yeah, I did know that. What about, I know you know about this because you love the logo they got, the mixtapes. So the mixtapes are where it's at with Flipgrid, right? Because you can have these things they call mixtapes, which are essentially portfolios. And when you see something that you say, I really need to capture that observation of that student learning, you just add it to their mixtape. And at the end of the term, you can just jump in there and see all of the great learning that that student's being a part of. Those mixtapes are ridiculous once you understand how they work.
Yeah, and finally, we talked about this because you're really shy when it comes to video, that you can offer response that doesn't have to be video. It could be audio. You can type, you can add pictures, you can screen share, you can show work. The possibilities with Flipgrid for responses are endless.
Yeah, I agree, man. I'm glad we agree on that one.
Yeah, we'll give you that one.
I would have fought hard on that one. I've been watching Cobra Kai lately, so you would have been in a little bit of trouble if you would have tried to go the other way on that one.
I'm not going to show you any mercy.
You've been watching it too.
So a topic on which both candidates agree, pretty impressive. If you want to learn more about Flipgrid, PD will be offered next week, specifically on this tool, but we do want to assure you that in the virtual school, even kindergarten students have been able to use Flipgrid effectively. So it is a K-8 tool that captures all of the benefits that the candidates expressed.
Yeah, and I think even like the thing is, it's actually like, I think when I think of primary and kindergarten, it's a great tool for that because they don't have that typing skill, right? And they just have to click one red button and start recording what they want to say. So I think, especially for those younger grades, you wouldn't think it, but I think it's like a prime tool for that age group.
Yeah, so did you see that released video of me accidentally doing a TikTok using Flipgrid? Oh, I should be a president right now. All right, final one. Why don't you take it, Mr. Dunlop?
The fifth one is, end of the day, what are some key things you would do to finish off your school day online? So I guess I'll go. I think Google Forms for me, like I've had a ton of success. We do a lot of teaching in classes for the virtual school where we're actually going and co-teach. And for me, the one that I always go back to, and whether I'm embedding it in the beginning of the lesson to kind of get a feeling of what's going on, or embedding it in the middle of a lesson to collect some data, or right at the end of the lesson as an exit card. I think we don't sometimes think of Forms, but Forms is so fast and easy to set up. It's and then you can just post it right in the chat. So you just take the link, throw it in the chat. The other thing I like about it is it doesn't take a lot of time to complete. And so you can ask questions where it's just 3 or 4 clicks, gives you a really great understanding of what it is they're seeing. The other thing is that the data can be graphed easily. And I love showing students that data. In one of the lessons I teach in the online school, I did what's better, iPhone or Android. And after I post in the chat, I pull up the results, the responses, and we actually watch the graph complete itself as we go through it. And it's kind of neat. I do this like sports commentary thing. And so when I'm doing this, I'm thinking about quick, efficient again. But the other thing I'm thinking too is, once you start using forms, you'll realize that students could create these forms very easy. My son is in grade 3 right now, and I heard him teaching his class how to use forms. He took over the screen and just pulled a Rob Dunlop. He talked a little too long, of course, but that was expected by the teacher. So, at that grade now, they're all making forms. So I like tools that not only we can use, but also the students can use as well.
That's a good point. I do enjoy the occasional form, but you know what? Sometimes I need a little bit something else. And for me, that's when I go to Jamboard, because number one, it's live. So I can easily create Jamboards as well. I could do it during a Google Meet or create it ahead of time. But what I like is there's collaboration happening in real time that the students can see as well. It's just on a form at the end that I have to share. And it's going to go beyond just words or a graph. They actually get to put in things that are meaningful. Of course, I'm going to tell them what I want, but when you get to use your words, show a picture that how you're feeling, it's a little bit of more of an ability to be creative from a student point of view. And the nice thing is I can easily share it just like a Google Doc. And then when they put in the reflections, I can turn that sharing off and I can keep that so it can't be ruined and use it a later process. And then I can just keep using it over and over, make multiple templates. Let me tell you, jamming is the way to go.
Yeah, you're right about that creativity piece, Kitch. It does give that for sure. It's pretty awesome too. Glad we have it now.
So North versus South tell us that the end of day routine is crucial. The end of day routine is not only going to allow you to collect feedback from your class, it's going to allow you to continue to build community, but also sets you up for next day's lessons. We all love Google Forms, and Jamboard is something that is allowing students to interact with you in the moment, and they can see each other's responses as they add them. Again, if Jamboard is new to you, a PD specific to Jamboard will be offered next week.
Awesome. All right, final thoughts. You go first, Kitch. I went first last time.
All right, so let's think about what we've viewed and what we've talked and what you heard, and think of how our moderator really brought it all together. Apparently she's more about, engagement and thinking of students rather than the awesome tech we just shared, which is strange. But when we're looking at some of the tech that we use, let's really take a look that there's no extensions. We didn't go find anything outside of DSBN. We're using the tools that we have at our fingertips. Sometimes when we start searching, there's this little site called Dunlop Pays Dunlop. No, wait, sorry, that wasn't it. Teachers Pay Teachers, that's what I'm thinking of. But when we start looking outside, sometimes we need to remember how good you are at teaching. And it's not about the fancy tools. It's not about finding flashy emojis or anything like that. We have a lot of great tools. Sometimes it's about the creativity, the provocations that come from you that we know you have. We just have to remember, let's just keep it simple for what we want and what we want to do with our students.
And yeah, if I can jump off that, Kyle, I think when I think of this too, I think about the engagement of those students in the class, and how are we engaging those students and making that learning fun for them and making them want to come in. Like, well-being is a huge thing right now in terms of our teachers and in terms of our students. So I think that's when I'm leaning towards things that are really quick and easy, and they don't take a lot of time to set up. I believe that factors into the whole teacher well-being side, but then also the seeing your teacher, commenting, collaborating, all of those things really help you, feel better. And I think when we're thinking of how we're lining up our day and how we have it set up, we really always got to think about engagement too. Personally, I think we have the tools that we need to do this effectively. I just think we really got to picture those students in their rooms, needing some excitement to the day. So whether you're dressing up or doing something fun with them, try and make it fun and interesting, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
So as our moderator stated, we do have some upcoming PD opportunities. Jamboard is February 2nd, and Flipgrid will be February 4th, and we are looking to see, hopefully you like this format a little bit better, where it's a simple half hour. It's not a full-length PD session. We will note that all the videos and things we talked about and links to resources in this one, which we'll share out in the chat momentarily, are on each slide for you to go through as well.
All right, and we don't want to just talk about it, we want to do it. So We would love you guys to jump into either of these. Well, we should put. I'll put them in the chat in a sec. I'll also put a slideshow in the chat too, and that slideshow you can have it. I've cut it down so you only get the most important information. It's got those links on it, as Kyle said, but also has links to here. And in the Jamboard one, we're just going to ask you to post a comment, and there's just a couple questions in the forum. So if you could just do those, that would be awesome. It kind of helps us guide our next session and what we're going to do with that.
And at the end of the day, whether I agree or disagree with my northern constituents, we just want to say thank you. You are rock stars. You are thrust into something that no one had expected, and you are killing it. Your students greatly appreciate everything it is that you're doing. And I know sometimes we always don't feel that way. You are burning the candle at both ends, but as we can say, you have the right mindset where you're in it for your students, doing everything that you can do to make them feel good, make them feel comfortable, and engaging them in learning day to day.
Yeah, guys. Oh, yeah, go, Mel.
I just wanted to send out a great big thank you to Kyle and Rob. We hope that just the setting of this PD, the length of it, made you smile. We want you to be well, and like they both always say, we know you're working so very hard, and we just wanted to offer some ideas for a bit of a flow of the day so you can get a sense of, starting maybe with an asynchronous piece, joining in together, making sure that there's something at the end of the day that everybody has to look forward to that's pretty straightforward and simple. So thanks so much to Rob and Kyle, and to certainly all of you for giving of your own time to continue your learning journey in teaching virtually.
All right, so, yeah, I posted that link in the chat. So you can just go to the slideshow. And yeah, guys, we just want you to be happy in education. That's all. Just be happy in education. All right, so you guys have a great one.
Happy montage all the time. Now I can use my proper accent. Good day, everybody. Ta-ta. Off to my real job now.